Hello, family members. I hope you're having a nice day today. I want to talk to you today about a question that I had been asking myself for some time, and I decided to make a project out of it, but then things didn't quite go how I expected. So let's get into it. It all started with a meme. Um, Gosh, I don't even know exactly when, probably like March or April or something, quite some time ago. And the question in the meme was, what radicalized you? And I thought that was kind of an interesting question. And so later that night, I talked to my parents every night. They're elderly. I'm disabled. We got to do the nightly phone call things. Yeah, I'm a nerd. Anyway, so I called the parents up and asked them the question, and their answers were pretty interesting, and I'll get into that a bit later. Um, but it gave me the idea that maybe this might be an interesting video topic, like asking a bunch of different people the question and seeing what they said. And so I started that project, and I got 3 recorded answers that are later on in this video from friends of mine. However, as I started going into the project, I started finding out that people were answering the question in ways I really didn't expect. Some people flat out denied being radicalized in any way, absolutely did not think that the term applied to them. Some people stated that they had been radicalized at some point, but then faced repercussions in their job from going to a protest and decided that they were no longer going to be involved in anything political, which just absolutely blew my mind. You know, I had thought after everything that's happened this year that people would generally be pretty radicalized, right? But not everyone is. Not everyone was. And it kind of threw a spoke, like a branch in my spokes there, I didn't really know how to reconcile that. Here I have people that are showing me that, the apathy that really is what is allowing our country to decay so rapidly is still as prevalent as always, or maybe more prevalent than I thought, at least. And so I've sat on these answers for months and thought I'll just have to find some way to make that project work at some point. I don't really have the energy to figure it out right now. I had my goddaughter over the summer anyway, so I was pretty distracted. And now that I really look back on it, I wonder. I wonder a lot about how many people politicians just straight up give up on. How many people are out there that are just fully apathetic, fully checked out, don't vote, never voted. I mean, a good third of our country is just not engaged in any way in the society that we have. They're just checked out. They've ceded whatever power they have to the status quo. And that's allowed the people at the top of the pyramid to make things worse for everyone, including themselves. They all have rich person disease, and don't tell me that rich person disease is okay. People who have rich person disease, boy, their lives are messed up. I mean, you can't tell me that Elon Musk is a happy man, a content man. That man will never be content. Nothing will ever be enough for him. And that's no way to live your life. I can't even imagine living like that. But those are the people, the nihilists, these people who will never ever be satisfied, who are driving our society, because every single political leader in this country has just given up on a third of our country. And I think that I was watching the Zoran Mondani rally earlier today. Yes, I am a nerd. It is true. And he was talking about how his campaign really reached out to people who weren't engaged. And, one thing that's really true about his campaign is he's very consistent in talking about what he wants to do, concrete policies he wants to, actually have enacted. This is what I'm gonna do, and here's the plan for how that's gonna work. And I just don't think there's been enough of that, where people go out and they reach out to people who are disengaged and say, look, I'm trying to get what you need. And if you can just come and be a little bit involved in this, situation, you could be part of a really big difference for you and everyone in your community. And I think it would be possibly very revolutionary to see more politicians do that, to go out to the people who are disengaged, to go out and find the voters, the third of our country that are not being served by anyone and no one's even trying. That maybe that apathy that I see as being, so dangerous to this country, that apathy comes from the top down. At some point, the Democratic Party gave up trying to reach out to certain demographics and just take them for granted. We're certainly better than the alternative, so we don't have to really be responsive to what you want. And I don't know, that's not flying. If you look at the way this country is working, that's not working. I'm sorry. So I'm going to go ahead and play the answers that my friends made for you, because they're really, really interesting. I will go ahead and start out with my friend Laura, who weirdly enough was the last person I talked to, but I gave her a small summary of what my parents said. And so I think that would be a good way to kind of get that in here for you guys too. So without further ado, my friend Laura, who is a mother of one from North Carolina, who grew up in the South and is auntie to 3 biracial nibblings, much like I am. Okay.
Yeah.
What radicalized you?
When I was a kid, I was with my family. I was probably about 10, maybe 11.
Mm-hmm.
And we were on our way to Florida from North Carolina, and we stopped in Georgia for the night at a hotel.
Mm-hmm.
And I was old enough to know how to swim by myself, and I'd made a friend in the pool.
Mhm.
So my mother felt comfortable letting me swim for a little bit by myself with my friend while she went and put my baby sister to bed in the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
And swam around for a little bit with this young girl who was my age. And at one point, we were just hanging on the side of the pool, and she says to me, "What color do you think I am?" And I was very confused, and I'm like 10 or 11, so I'm like, black, I guess. She had really wavy hair, curly, that coarse curly hair. I could tell her skin was darker.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, well, I'm mixed. My mom's black, my dad's white.
Mm.
And I want to say that was probably the first time I was aware someone who had interracial parents.
Mm-hmm.
And being 10 years old, I was like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And that was the end of it. And her mom called and she seemed a little confused by it, but we kept playing. And then her mom called her in. And I remember very distinctly this older black man being there and saying to me something to the effect of, why are you talking to her? Because you two are so different. Why are you even talking to her? And I don't even remember what I said in response.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm sure I wasn't. I remember being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I didn't like it. I didn't like how it made me feel. I think I just shrugged, and my mom was calling me, so I went there. But if we want to talk about a core memory, that was a core memory. And I will never, ever, ever understand, because even within black culture, there can be people who are lighter skinned and darker skinned saying, oh, well, you're not black enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I will never understand that. And to me, it's absolutely not about what anybody looks like on the outside. Mm-hmm. It's about how you treat those around you and how you approach different situations, and how do you treat the person next to you that needs a helping hand.
Mm. So this would have been what, like mid-90s?
Yeah, 95, 96.
Yeah.
Georgia.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
In 95, 96, but yeah.
Yeah. And so seeing someone else be that overtly racist kind of just changed your perspective on things, essentially.
I would say so.
Yeah.
I have another memory. I don't think it was the same trip.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember being at a rest stop. It was the same. So I don't know that it was the same trip, but it was definitely the same journey of going from North Carolina to Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a man who was having a seizure of some sort.
Mm.
And he was a black man. Mm-hmm. My father is a white man. Mm-hmm. And there was no hesitation. My father jumped out of the car to go give assistance. Mm-hmm. It was that simple.
Yeah.
For my dad. Yeah. And that was the example I grew up with. It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I think it has always given me not only a desire to learn about the human experience of those around me who may not look like me.
Yeah.
But it's also made me want to always make sure that no matter what the person next to me looks like, they know that I see them as a human. Mm-hmm. End of story.
Yeah.
That's simple for me.
Well, that's a good answer, and a very different direction than where we got. My mom's did have to do with racism too, but it was 1996 at the campground at Stone Mountain when they were trying to integrate the swimming pool, and the locals were resisting, and so they did civil disobedience and swam anyway.
All right.
So
I like it.
Dad was like Vietnam War, which makes sense to me, you know. And then I had someone else bring up 9/11 and acid mine runoff in West Virginia, you know. So lots of different things there. So that's an interesting take on it that I appreciate very much. Up next is my literal oldest friend ever, Katrina, who is a mom of 3 and grew up in rural West Virginia, same as me, in a very religious family that was not very well off. What radicalized you?
I think that there was a point in my life where I kind of I hold on. I've always very, very much cared about other people. And because I went through some very traumatic things growing up, I think it was a lot easier for me to say, hey, I don't want other people to have to experience this awful thing that I went through. Or, I don't want them to have to experience, suffering that isn't their fault, because that was my experience growing up. Things that I didn't do, I was blamed for, that sort of thing. So it just felt like something bigger than myself.
Was there an inciting incident that you can think of?
Mm, it's not that I can think of. I'm kind of can think of maybe an age group that I was in at the time.
Mm-hmm. What
I was
time, like, what time period are we talking about? Like 2000s or?
Yeah, I would say it was probably 99, 2000 ish that I started realizing that, a lot of the indoctrination that I was subjected to as a kid was was more of a problem than what it was. And you know what? I think I do realize that the difference was switching churches
Um,
and finding people who were more diverse and rules that weren't quite as rigid and things that actually honored other people, not just, you can't do this, you can't do that. It's,
right.
the service aspect of it.
Yeah, yeah. I understand that for sure. Well, that's a pretty good answer to that question. I like that.
Yeah, I feel like, for me, it was, I had this environment and that's all I really, really knew. And as soon as that part of my environment shifted, it
Mm-hmm.
was like seeing the world clearly for the first time.
Yeah,
And I think as I got older, that just continued to grow.
yeah. That makes sense. Definitely. Well, I thank you very much for your time.
Oh, you're welcome.
And last but not least is my friend Amaris here, who is both literally a professional geologist and in a rock band. She's awesome. What radicalized you?
The easy answer for somebody in our millennial age group would definitely be 9/11. That was definitely a biggie.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say the biggest thing would be growing up in rural West Virginia and seeing all the ways that people here are mistreated
Mm-hmm.
and looked down upon,
Mm-hmm.
and basically being treated by or as everybody else's slave labor,
Mm-hmm.
because we don't get paid worth a dime.
Mm-hmm.
None of our coal that the people work their lives off to produce, none of that stays here. It all gets exported elsewhere. A lot of our natural resources get exported elsewhere, and none of it comes back to help any of us.
Mm-hmm.
And we lose our health, we lose our livelihood, our what's it called, like wellness,
Well-being,
our living,
the quality of life.
situation.
Yeah.
Yes, quality of life. That's it.
Yeah.
Um, we lose our environmental health.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there's absolutely no benefit to any of us. We just get treated like dirt. Less than dirt. At least dirt gets used.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. What point in your life, what like time period was it, do you believe, that you first really became aware of that?
Oh, well, that one's easy. Definitely when I was probably about 10.
Mm.
The community where I grew up um, in Randolph County, it was one of the worst acid mine drainage disasters of like the
Uh,
70s and 80s.
okay.
And I grew up with an acid mine drainage creek going through my backyard. It was
Hmm.
also the main sewage drain
Hmm.
until about 2010. 2010, they finally got a sewage system put in that community.
Jeez.
Yeah, you don't hear about that in any other state, but
Yeah.
that's an everyday occurrence here.
Yeah. So what year would that have been when you were 10? You would have you're I forget what year you're born, I'm sorry.
Oh, when I was 10, that would have been 96.
Okay. Mid 90s. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting to me when I ask people that question, how much I'm seeing people have like a specific thing versus a confluence of things, you know?
Uh-huh.
And obviously I think it's probably a little bit of both for most people, right?
Right.
But it is interesting how many people can, if I say, is there an inciting incident? Can you think of a specific time and then they're like, oh yeah, I can think of this. I find those interesting answers,
Yeah. So, like, my dad would always tell us stories about how bad it was there in the 60s and the 70s when he was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, once the state government got involved and started cleaning things up, it wasn't quite as bad.
Yeah.
It's not great. It's still pretty bad there. But it's better than it was 30 years ago.
Yeah. So that's it. My big long project that I've been working on for months, sort of intermittently. And I think it's interesting to see these moments in time that people describe and how it opened their eyes to the bigger picture of society. And maybe we can learn something from that and how we can use that to reach out to the people who are apathetic and uninvolved and have just given up. Love you, family members. Bye.